All right. Let's look at the translation. So make corrections if you need to, because you're going to retake this on Friday. So if you somehow failed this on Friday, that'd be really weird, because here is the translation. By which type, you got Quibus Caneribus, of sinister evil, or like wicked evil, have, this is important, the reason we have to like bust out have is just from us knowing that this is perfect passive. So that's the first blanks, right? That delay tie and runs is perfect passive. You don't have yours returned, but you did it, right? Oh, yeah, you did good. So that verb is perfect passive. Okay, so that's why we look at have before we even get to our subject, because it's the question, right? We're kind of used to that in questions. You have to like have a helping verb come to play before you even like get to your subject in the translation. So have those two citizens, most of y'all did good on those two citizens, been, it's been because it's passive, and we're going to practice passive this week like crazy, been destroyed. So this week for kids who are actually in the right class, we're going to focus on perfect tense today, passive present tense tomorrow, and then perfect passive on Thursday. So if you're still kind of freaked out by the perfect passive, that's what Thursday is going to be all about. And then on Friday, we'll just do a mixed bag of all of those things. But yeah, y'all are just at a point where y'all have had these new verb endings introduced since quarantine, the first quarantine. And so that's why y'all are still like a little like rusty on just like passives. And then you're still rusty on active perfects and perfect passive. Anyway, so we'll practice all that this week. So have been verb, because it's a perfect passive. It's future perfect passive. Whoopsie. Future perfect passive. And this is even hard for me. It's future perfect because it's erunt, not suit. It would be perfect passive, just like perfect passive, if it's suit. So it's will have. How did I manage that? Will have been destroyed. If you, I was like lenient on this. If you just said perfect passive, I think it only took half a point. And I wasn't even super concerned about will have. This is such a rare tense. You won't see this a lot. This future perfect passive. You'll see perfect passive and perfect passive way more. But will have been verb, all right? Future perfect passive whips out 3 helping verbs. Will, have, or has, and been, plus the simple past version of the verb. Kind of crazy, right? Any questions on that first one? So y'all gonna all be able to translate it perfectly on Friday if you didn't already? All right, who passed it? It was like Lucy, Elena, Parker. Good. And then everyone else, y'all are close. I was really impressed. This is like, we're getting into hard stuff, and that's why we're doing the review week, is to like really try to like get y'all like ready to like not always need to retake your quizzes anymore. All right, which mortal, mortalis is an adjective, but here is like functioning substantively as a noun. Which mortal is able or just can, is able or can be happy, and then we just have this big prepositional phrase, without friendship and honesty and kindness. And then a lot of people didn't quite touch in alias, like you had it perfect except you didn't touch in alias. I don't really blame you. That part was hard. We haven't seen this too much, but that'd be like toward others. Because in taking an accusative can be, usually we've seen it as into. It can be against. Here it must be toward, because you wouldn't have kindness against others. You wouldn't have kindness into others. Just toward others. And then probitas is a word I think are getting used to. And I should have glossed beneficum, since I don't know if we've like officially gotten that. I guess maybe we have. I don't remember getting beneficum. All right. Any questions? There's that third declension adjective ending. Third declension adjectives tend to look like these I stem third declensions, which basically amounts to their ablative ending is long I, just like their dative ending. Who besides Keaton knew their third declension endings? Just Keaton? Or you kind of did? Fourth declension? I'd be like blown away if you knew fourth declension. We just got it and we haven't like practiced it enough. It's not hard, but it's just like you're not used to it. It's basically fourth declension is like third declension with like U's instead of I's and E's. Kind of. Yeah, Sarah? So the red ones are first, and the blue ones are second. Most of first declension are feminine. Like pretty much all nouns in first declension are feminine, and then second declension is masculine or neuter. The red and the blue ones. The red and the blue ones. And then neuter is different in a couple places. So neuter is UM instead of US in the nominative in second declension. And then it's still UM in accusative. And then it's A here and here. So otherwise neuter is the same second. And then you can look at, you just flip over to chapter 2. It's literally the first page of chapter 2 has second declension. Or first declension. Chapter 3 has second declension. So I know that's kind of confusing. But chapter 2 and 3 are, they introduce the first two declensions. So if y'all need to look at all those textbooks, do so now. All right. Now we're just going to practice. Those are for my ninth graders. We're just going to practice the tense I wanted y'all to focus on. Who was able to write down perfect tense endings? Anyone? Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought, right? So we introduced chapter 12 at the beginning of last year, and you guys and my third year, ninth grade kids, they still get thrown off by these just perfect active endings. So that's the focus of today. Yeah, I had these vocab refresher sheets, but I don't think that'll quite be useful for you guys. But we will be looking at some examples of sentences and stuff. So if you start seeing words that you're not familiar with and you like these templates, just grab it. I'm not going to pick them up this year, but if you'd rather write words down that you don't know on that, as opposed to just your notes, then so be it. What is movie? What is movie? Just translate this as though it's its own sentence. It's from moveo movere. Anyone? What would that be? What does moveo movere mean? To move. And now, what tense is this? What tense did I say we're going to focus on? Yeah. What person and number is it? One second. And this is the problem, is that we don't know like which one belongs to which person. I don't have my verb chart up here. Parker?
First person singular.
So what would it translate to?
I have moved.
Yeah, I have moved. Okay? I have moved. So the reason y'all are still so thrown off by this first person singular perfect ending is that it just doesn't look like any of our verb endings previously. We got used to OST must have sent. We even got used to first singular ending in M, right? Like and eram. But before this, we didn't have any verbs ending in long I. But just that long I, if you see what looks like it could be a verb and it's ending in long I, it's probably not a genitive or anything. It's probably a first person singular verb. So if you didn't already, you should write that in your verb endings, right? The noun verb template I handed out. Y'all should write long I for first singular perfect. We're going to slowly fill out a perfect tense shot here. Elena, even though you did really good on your quiz, you probably shouldn't quite read To Kill a Mockingbird or whatever it is. What book is that? I'm just curious about that. The Walden Stars. Okay, that's not the English one. What are y'all reading in the English right now? Y'all are reading To Kill a Mockingbird. Okay. Y'all like it?
Okay.
It's kind of interesting, right? Like, there's something a little interesting about it. I like Scout and Jim and Dill and Atticus. They're all cool. Calpurnia. So let's look at this in discipula versu movi. What would that be? And again, not again. That's the first time I'm saying this today. Like, look at the dictionary entry for this word, right? The first singular perfect form is the third principal part, right? He's right there. So when you look at a verb dictionary entry, that third principal part is first singular perfect tense. What is it, Cora? It's
first singular perfect.
Yeah. So I'm gonna drill this. It's gonna feel like I'm like overstating the perfect tense, but it's like everyone needs the perfect tense still. So it would be I have verb. And I should put have in parentheses here, right? If you don't want to use have, you really don't need to. Okay? So focus on verb. You might want to actually write how we're translating them if you can squeeze it into your verb endings as well. So what would discipula versu movi be? We got a fourth declension guy right here. What is discipula? I'll just say discipula is neuter plural. It's neuter plural. It's not feminine singular. What would that be, anyone? Discipula versu movi. You know what movi is? Just add discipula. Use it plural. I'm telling you what case it is and versu.
You gave me Chloe's vocab quiz.
Weird. Okay. I think you and did I give you yours?
No.
Okay, I think the reason I did that is because both of y'all, I'm glad y'all reminded me to try to retake it, but honestly, we do it again. And then everybody else still, besides Luke, Parker, and Lucy, still need to retake their vocab quiz. So that's why it's like, where's Chloe?
I don't know.
You want it, Sarah? But yeah, so no homework this week. The reason there's no homework is because some of you are going to be taking up to 2 quizzes on Friday. But that's fine because there's no homework. There's no new information. You're just like looking at. I'll give you the quiz ahead of time if you want to like look at it. So if you're still taking the vocab and you don't have a copy of the vocab quiz, get it from me. I'll just give it to you so you can study it. All right. What is the singular versus movie? Anyone? Not too hard. Now, I don't know if Latin people of ancient Romans use the word move. Like, you know how in English we say like, oh, I was so moved by the play, the movie. I don't know if they would have used that verb this way, but I'm using it that way. Lucy?
The students are moved by the verses.
No, because, well, so yeah, it does look like the stimulus made the student. The subject, but I'm already telling you it's direct object. And we know that movie is I verb, right? So it's I have moved with the verses or something. Yeah. I moved the students with the verse or verses. This would be, what kind of ad-lib out loud? Yeah, means. Oh yeah, by the way, I forgot to mention this. Shoot. I don't want to go back. 1 second. Oh, these ablatives, what was their function? So people either said ablative object of sine. That's technically true. It's the object of sine. But what is the big ablative we were focusing on a lot this week? It's the ablative of separation. Because it's like without this ablative and that ablative and that ablative, like a separation from those ablatives. So I would accept ablative separation or object of sine. And I don't know how to specify in the future if I want you to. Like, I wanted y'all to tell me separation, but people who said object have seen it, like, you're not wrong. Anyway, that's the answer for people who have to retake on Friday. So I moved the direct objects with the ablative of means. Do we kind of follow that? I'm glad Lucy initially translated that way. Because, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what y'all would do. Y'all would be like, oh, I think that thing at the end is the verb. I don't know what the long I means. I don't know that that means first person singular perfect. But discipula must be the subject. And it's like, no, actually, discipula is a neuter accusative plural. If y'all noticed, every time I'm talking about students in like a bonus translation, I put it in the neuter plural because I don't want to say like, I'm not talking about just guy students or girl students. So I'm always using this neuter plural ending in my bonus sentences. All right, so that is the first person singular perfect ending. What is this guy? Miscuimos. Who can translate miscuimos? Anyone? Again, if you're like, I don't know what Miscao Miscari means, and I don't want to write it in my notes right here. What is Miscao Miscari? Miscao Miscari Miscui mixto. The last one, shall yeah, to mix or to stir up or to blend. Parker? We have mixed because Parker. I mean, this was y'all definitely all should know this is first plural, but also spoiler, it's perfect. That's why it's have verb. So it comes from Miscao Miscari Miscui. So we're still doing damage control for the fact that I told y'all for over a year that you did not need to know the third and fourth principal part. Now y'all do, but like a lot of second conjugation verbs have this U show up in the third principal part. So the stem that we use to form all of our perfect forms for this verb is everything other than that long I. The scooey right there, that's I have mixed already. But then if we want to form the other versions of it, it would be we would add the endings, the appropriate endings, to miscu. I don't want this out the whole time because it's going to give it away. But so now we got the I, and now we have the emis. So I'm going to add emis here. Now the emis ending is kind of tricky. These two are like not super helpful because they sure can look present tense. Like if the verb is already fourth conjugation, remember the ones that end in IRE, then this is going to look like they're just present tense. That's why you do. It's a lot to ask, but you kind of need to know your third principal parts. You need to know how to recognize it. And a lot of the times it's because a letter like U or X or what's another one? V are showing up as the last consonant in that third principal part. So yeah, we have mixed. What would turba miscuimos be? I don't know what turba means. Turba means Lucy?
Never mind.
Okay. And I really mean this. I think y'all think I'm just like saying these things, but I'm like, if you don't know what turba means, and now we're about to see what it means, you should write this down in your notes. You should just have an ongoing log of words in your notes. You're like, these are the words I ran into this week that I didn't know. Otherwise, you're just going to keep not knowing. I'm going to say what it means on the next slide, but that's not going to sink into your mind unless you like at least did something to write it down. You could write, like, you could use these to write words down and then, like, later on make flashcards. We might have time on Friday to make flashcards if you're not doing any makeups. But it's like keep a log of the words that you should make flashcards for. Because guys, like we're getting into the deep end with Latin. Like vocab is something you can get with vocab. The grammar, it's always kind of it's a lot to keep track of. You can get complicated concept-wise. But vocab is something you can just learn if you spend a little bit of time on it. But it is up to you. Lucy.
Is it speed?
No, what are you thinking of? It sounds like a turbo or something. It's like crowd. So we stirred up the crowd. Because I wouldn't want to say mix the crowd unless I said mix up. Mix up is fine with this Gayo, honestly. But it can be crowd. We get what do we get from it? Like turbidity. Why does that help? It can be crowd or disturbance. It's not just like any crowd. It's usually a crowd that's kind of rowdy, like a rabble. But yeah, so there you go. Turbo is a direct object. All right. So Cora, you know what turbine means?
Crowd.
Like, why are you on your calculator? Like, what? Like, yeah, you should either be like writing stuff down here. You should have. Where did your verb chart go? Are you writing on your perfect endings? Okay, but we've only done 2, so you need to get it back out and keep it out. I wonder if I get to clear off their desk. What is that? Why would that ever happen? No, please get something out. And honestly, like Parker has his notebook out too. I don't see why y'all wouldn't have like the notebook out too. All right, we got 2 down, 4 to go. Legistic. What is this going to be? Where are my endings? So, there's 2 parts to this. It's remembering what verb even is this. Do I know this verb? And what is that ending actually? Obviously, we're in the perfect system. All of these are going to be perfect. But you guys seem to not totally know the person and the number of all these endings. What would this? Oh, it's kind of snowing again. It's a light flurry. It definitely snowed for a second last class. Parker, what would this be?
You have chose.
You have say it again. Chosen. You have chosen, or you have like pantomime reading. Apparently, you have read. So yeah. So here's the verb down here. Lego, legere, legilectum means to pick out or to choose. If you don't know that word, you should write it down. Cora right now is diligently writing down that Lego, legere, lexilectum means to choose or to read out. To read rather. What's there? What do you mean? All the papers are up there, so you can get another one up there. Or you can use the second half. All right, get on. All right, print those out all week. All right. I mean, you're supposed to already do that with your noun chart, but no, yeah, make it your own. So we took like the stem of this verb. This one's kind of hard because I kind of thought this one was. I kind of thought. Hold on 1 second. Y'all need to start translating genera fluminous legisti while I look something up real quick. Legere. Okay, I'm not wrong. I almost thought this was supposed to be lexi down here because we do have this word lex in Latin, which is like law. But anyway, we took the stem. This one's tricky because the perfect stem is identical to the first 2 principal parts. So like that means it'd be really easy to mix up the first person plural and the third person singular endings and think that they're just present tense. So that's not great. But this ending is so distinctly second person singular perfect that it should really stand out to you guys. I mean, just like first person singular too. I think the problem with first person singular is y'all still don't think that this is a verb ending, and that's what throws y'all off. But this one is so distinct that y'all should, like, anytime we see that isti ending, that is second singular perfect. So it's a you have verbed kind of ending, right? So that's 3 down, 3 to go. What would genera fluminous legisti be? What is genus generis, anyone? Third to clinch. Yeah, it showed up on our quiz, right? Origin. Origin is the first one given, but we usually have seen it as type or kind. So we might want to go with type or kind here. And then fluminous. What is fluminous? Yeah, river. What declension are both of them? Yeah, they're both third. So what would this be? Genera fluminous legistic. Anyone? Adrian, I feel like you should have moved, like, sit by your peers, computer kids.
He likes me more than that.
And you should be studying like first year declensions because apparently you didn't know any of your first year declensions. Guys, just like use your time wisely. Like, why would you sit there and be like, I don't know any of the first declension, and I'm on my second year of Latin, and so I'm just gonna sit here and talk to somebody in another class. Well, what would this one be? Anyone? So we know the verb means you have chosen or read. This sentence almost doesn't really make sense, but like sometimes it's better to look at sentences that don't make sense in terms of the content, but like you still want to like be able to figure out the grammar of it. Bailey? Yeah, you have chosen the origin or origins or types of river. Yeah, so what does that mean? Who knows? But like grammatically, you should be able to parse something, even if it doesn't sound like it like totally like makes sense. Genera is our direct object here, and fluminus is genitive possessive of genera. Types of river. We have chosen types of, let's see there we go. Okay. And there are some third declension words there if you didn't know. So genera, since it's a neuter third declension, it actually gets this A for its nominative and accusative plural. And fluminus, that should obviously be genitive because that's our go-to third declension genitive ending. Good. All right, we're halfway through the perfect tense. Fluxit. What does fluxit mean? I'll pronounce it that way. I like that better. Fluxit. Anyone? From fluo, flura. Speaking of rivers, Bailey? Yeah, to flow. So what would this be? What person and number? We know it's perfect tense. That's what we're looking at today. So what? Well, yeah, what person and number? I mean, you could, obviously, what is it? First, second, third? Yeah, singular, plural. So it's going to be like he, she, it. Yeah, so like it flowed. Exactly. This one, again, third singular and first plural. Those are a little tricky. Because depending on the verb, it could look like it's just present tense. But if you kind of know what your verb's dictionary entry actually looks like, this will not be an issue. Because what letter tells us for sure this is perfect tense? Anyone? There's one single letter that tells us this has to be perfect tense. Someone other than Lucy, Parker, and me? I guess we can just call people. Keaton, what? Well, I'm sorry, you guys. I thank you for volunteering. I like that I can count on you guys. But Keaton, what is the one letter that makes this perfect tense for sure? Let's see, you have a question? Not the ending, really. Because the ending, like, honestly, even if this was present, fluo, since it's third conjugation, fluid, F-L-U-I-T, like IT, the same ending, that would actually just be present tense. Like, it flows. But we know this is perfect, not because of the IT so much, but because of the Elena. No, not the I either. Perfect tense does really like I. Caden? No, because you use part of the stem. That's never really going to change. So Parker, yeah, it's the X. The X. We look at it here, guys. Look at the actual dictionary entry. Fluo, flura. That's where we get our present, imperfect, and future forms from. But then the perfect stem is flux. It's literally an English word, flux capacitator. So all of the perfect forms are going to have that X right before the ending. So even though this ending is not distinct, if we kind of can recall, I'm like, that takes like almost like photographic memory. If you were just like, oh, he's asking about the verb fluo, flura. So now I can just recall fluo, flura, fluxy, fluxum. That's a lot to ask. But like I said, U, X, and V, they do show up almost like 80% of the time. One of those three consonances, well, U's a vowel, but in Latin, not so much, will show up at the end as the last letter in a perfect stem. Does that kind of make sense, or you're kind of confused? Or you're kind of like, I don't see how that helps. Like, why would I know that? Anyone? Or kind of get it? All right. It's a very quiet class, except when Adrian's talking to Keith, like a second ago when you were doing. Okay. What is it? Flumen and Romam fluxits. Anyone? What would that be? Looks like I added a subject. So far, we've had a lot of drop subjects, but I added one here. Bailey? Does it flow in Rome? You said to Rome, or so like into Rome, because Romam's accusative there, so it's gonna Since in is taking an accusative, we'll translate it as into or toward, as we saw in our quiz, or against, not against. So the river flowed into Rome. It did not flow. That would be fluid. It's fluxit, so it flowed. Because the X, once he shows up, we know we are talking perfect tense. Right? Computer kids, if you're hearing this, just let this be a lesson that you should ignore me, and you should not ignore the third and fourth principal part of your verse. You don't need to mess with them, but you should like lay eyes on them and be aware of their existence, so that a year from now, y'all are not thrown off by the perfect tense in the way my own students have been, because I set them up to be that way by telling them to ignore third and fourth principal part. All right, Alyssa, are you making flashcards? What are you doing? Y'all have a video tomorrow. Sorry, I know this is weird. Yeah, just do first and second. Are you ready to, if you're not ready to retake your quiz, you should study that and make sure you understand everything going on with that. The video tomorrow, actually not, but yeah, the video tomorrow, no, the video on Wednesday for you. Thursday is going to have that. Paravistus. Paravistus, what would this be, King?
I was just gonna ask a question.
What?
Is it possible to like retake the translation quiz like tomorrow?
I guess. Like, I want to do all the retakes on Friday, but you just like want to get out of the way. We'll just plan to review it on Thursday's essay instead of like today's essay. Maybe. You could definitely take an essay. For sure you could take it in this essay, because I'm like I'm here. But yeah, otherwise if you're taking a class, all the retakes will be on Friday. But yeah, for you kids specifically, y'all can take it during essay. What would this be, anyone? You might not remember what pero parare means, but what person and number is it? Carly, what person? It's obviously perfect. You only have two options left. What person and number do you think it is? Yeah. Singular, plural. Yeah. Right. So we're just taking the weird singular one and we're adding an S at the end. That's all it is. So the second person perfect endings are very distinct. I think some of these endings, y'all, I think they're like noun endings, and I don't really blame you. Like this almost like the long IS here reminds me of like an adverbial plural. And this obviously might remind you of like a genitive singular or something. You're ready to take it out? What'd you say? You're not here? What'd you say?
I'm ready to take my quiz.
Oh,
Are we allowed to take it?
you probably could. Yeah, any of y'all can. No. I trust y'all. If you put everything away and you want to take your quiz, you can take it. But maybe only Sarah actually wants to break that. Because Sarah knows what she's already taken it once, so she doesn't say Sarah. But yeah, grab it if you want. Yeah. Well, okay. The idea is that you retranslate them, not totally memorize it. So this is second verse. It's you all what? Anyone? What is pero parare? It's like a chapter 17 word, maybe 18. What is pero parare, King? You remember? Add a prefix to it. Hint, prefix. Bailey? Yeah, so you all have prepared. Yep. So, like, y'all know how to translate perfect tense verbs, right? The, like, he, she, it, or I mean, I, you, it, we, all, they verbed, or have or has verb. Y'all definitely get that, right? Like, honest question. It's just the endings that you don't always recognize. Is that what it is? Okay. That's what I think it is. But, like, I don't know. For all I know, like, y'all don't know that you translate perfect tense verbs as, like, verbed. That's how you translate them. Have or has verb. You don't need the have or has. If you don't like have or has, then sayonara, never use have or has. Just put it in the what we call simple past in English, which is basically putting an ed at the end, or certain verbs don't get the ed. But. All right. So this one's kind of tough. Quo libro, from Liber Libri book. Cum paravistus. What's that going to be? So what preposition do we like to whip out, Chloe, when we see, y'all kind of have this on a quiz, not really, but what preposition starting with a B should we whip out when we see like a question about something and it's in the ablative? We see one of these interrogative adjectives in the ablative. What preposition should we whip out just by default? It might not be what we need here. Can you think of it? No? Anyone? Parker? It'd be by, but we actually do have a preposition here. We have cum, right? So let's say with quo libro. Where's quo libro? Carly, what do you think quo libero is going to be? Yeah, or it could be which book, but yeah, what or which, either way. So with which book, and then what? We got a perfect tense verb. So what helping verb needs to come out? So for questions, I guess you actually do need helping verbs. That's kind of interesting, Lucy. Yeah. So with which book have you? So that's like all coming from the ending of the verb. The have and the you are coming from the ending of the verb. Y'all need to chill. I'm not doing this for fun. I'm doing this because y'all do not know your perfect endings. So with which book have you all prepared? So yep, what is the letter in this form of pero parare that tells us it's perfect system for sure? Even if you don't recognize istis as a second plural perfect ending, there is a letter that's hanging out that should tell, at least once you look at your dictionary entry, it's telling you that this is perfect. What is that, Cora? What letter in para vistas is telling us for sure it's perfect, even if you don't know if your ending is definitely perfect?
The long eye.
Not the long I. I mean, the long I is part of the ending, so the ending should tell you this too. But also, Elena, the V. Because look, the V doesn't show up until that perfect stem, that I have prepared form of to prepare. Right? It's just pero parare, pero peros, perot, paramus, etc. When the V comes out, that it tells you you're in the perfect tense. All right. I'm worried we're gonna do this whole day, and y'all still aren't gonna know your perfect endings. You're supposed to be like really soaking this in, and like we're just like sorting out perfect forever, so we never have to like get caught up on it again. Last one. Obviously, this is third plural, right? That's the only one I haven't written on the board. Libera veros. What is this gonna mean, anyone?
They have freed.
They have freed. Adrian, you want to move over here or anywhere that's not by Keaton? Thank you. So they have freed. Yeah. They have freed, or just they free. I said liberated, but freed is a little better, honestly. You don't need to have. Cora, let's try again. Or Chloe. I don't know, I'm just picking y'all randomly. Or Carly. What is the letter here that even if we don't recognize ERUNT, which is the weirdest one, right? He's a real odd man out in the perfect system. But even if we don't know that any is perfect, there is a consonant that is screaming out at us that this is going to be in the perfect tense. What letter is that, any of y'all?
V.
The V, right. Because if you're looking at the dictionary entry, that V doesn't show up until the third principal part. I mean, that V and then the perfect endings are the only thing that really separate it from the first two. So the stem is liberal. And then like that form right there is like I have liberated. But if we add this third person plural ending, it's they have liberated. But yeah, third plural. It's a weird ending. All the other ones are all about the letter I, and then third plural gets an E and a U. It almost looks like it's like, I don't know what it looks like. It's weird though. What's our, oh yeah, Roma Meconieratis libera verunt. This one's not bad. What do you think the direct object in the sentence is, Caden? What if you like knew that? What if you like said it immediately? That'd be tight. What's the direct object in the sentence, Caden? No, you should know your accusative endings, Keaton. You know your third declension endings. You should know accusative endings for all the declensions. Sarah? It's not always the same, but it's like subject, object, verb instead of subject, verb, object, like in English. Why do you need that in your quiz? But that means you don't quite understand your grammar yet. We should need to talk about accusatives and essay today. Elena? Yeah, Rome's the direct object, right? Rome, right? Keaton? Yeah, it ends in A-N. I mean, it could be an object of motion towards, like I'm going to Rome, but I don't see odd. I don't see A-D, the preposition A-D. So they have freed Rome, what? Lucy? From conspirators. So Lucy just knows on the context, given that we're using a verb freed, that we can add the preposition from, because this is an ablative of separation. All right. Oh, another thing. On the second translation of the quiz, a lot of y'all thought that like benefit and friendship and honesty were direct objects. I get why, because they kind of feel like that. It's like who can live without these things, and so it feels like it's coming after the verb live, but it's like live without these things, so it's out of separation. So sometimes out of separation really is direct objecty. It's like I freed the ablative, and it feels like it's functioning like a direct object. Here, though, there's a direct object and an ablative separation. I freed the direct object from the ablative separation. So you might think ablative separation is just kind of like whatever, and like it's not that hard, but it's actually a little weird. But it only shows up with a few verbs, right? It shows up with libero, to free, shows up with prohibeo, to prohibit. It shows up with correo, to lack. That's about it. Audrey? Indeed. Yeah, I mean, you want what? You want to like take it down or get closer to it? Or? Oh, and no, you can use your noun chart, so you don't need
These
this.
are so awful.
Because
So hard to read. The noun chart is only first declension.
Well, you're supposed to have a second declension too. We need to make a better copy for y'all if you only have first on there. An essay. Let's make a really good noun chart today. I think maybe, or I can just print one out for you. Okay. Couple sentences, guys. The bell's about to ring in 3 minutes. But let's just do a little bit of practice. So those are our perfect endings. That's what you should have written in your first verb chart. And so tomorrow, I want y'all to be able to write all of those endings in the second verb chart at the bottom, right? You're going to find out tomorrow if you actually retained any of this. And then tomorrow we're going to practice passive endings, present passive. Oh, but so that's perfect. But what is this? So we just saw, they freed Rome from conspirators. What is this? Not they have freed, but because this is not perfect, I'm not going to dwell on pluperfect, guys. Pluperfect is just we're using the third principal part just like perfect, but we're adding ERA at the end, and so it's technically the imperfect form of sumesse, but I don't even think of it that way. It's just like like Roman libau. This is a hard word to say. Libera verum, and don't ever pack up before the bell. Ever, ever, ever. Please don't ever do that. Doesn't help if I sing. Okay, so what is this? What is this? What is this first one? It's gonna be I had freed, then you had freed, then it had freed, etc. So it's just had. When you see ERA though, just think pluperfect, had, without your had, okay? I'm not even gonna talk about future perfect because it never shows up. We'll have that be like ERI a lot of the times, but that is pluperfect. So perfect endings versus pluperfect right here. Pluperfect are actually more chilled out. They're more uniform. They have ERA in every ending. And the only difference in terms of translation is had instead of has or have. Any questions about that? For real? Y'all get pluperfect? Caden gets pluperfect? Caden learned pluperfect before present? Okay. You got to catch up on like Latin 1.5 stuff this week. And then this is third declension, and this is fourth. So check them out, guys. They're pretty similar. Just focus on masculine and feminine. Don't worry about neuter so much. Like I said, it's kind of like third declension-y, right? Not so much the genitive. That genitive's weird. It's really weird that nominative plural, genitive singular, and also accusative plural are the same. But they are. Okay, we can live with that. Ibis, those are the same as third declension. The genitive plural is basically the same. Accusative singular is like second declension singular. And then the ablative is a long vowel. We always knew that ablative singulars love long vowels. That's just a deal. Any questions on that? Did anybody get any of fourth declension at all? So Key knows his declension and
I got the singular.
so tomorrow y'all better get third though. You don't need to know third. Just like y'all needed to know perfect tense yesterday, you don't need to know third tense yesterday. I'm not saying it's your fault. It's probably like my fault a little bit. But hopefully tomorrow y'all can write some of third and fourth, all of perfect, and then we'll focus on passive endings, okay? All right. Any questions about anything? Sarah, you finished your quiz? Where are that? Okay, go. When is the what?